Hi everybody. This week we will continue with yet another app. This time our app will also have a little bit of code. Last week we built our first app, which was a pure click away, so to speak, type of app. This time we will have to do something more meaningful and add a little bit of code so that we make things more interesting. We will build more specifically a dice throwing app. That's a classic example of an app to start coding in Swift. And without further ado, let's get started. This time actually I preloaded all the images that we will need for this app, because now you know how to do it. We have a dice throwing app, so we need one image for each face of the dice. We need a background. We always need a background actually for painting the screen of the iPhone, if you like. We have our app icon here. I also put a splash screen. That's the screen that you see when the app launches for a second or two. I created all these things using the free resources that I recommended last time, so you can do it also. And with that we can move on to the fun part, which is the app building operation. We always start actually from the main storyboard. You need to first build the interface. That's what the storyboard is all about. And I always recommend starting by putting the background image, cover your screen with something interesting. So let's do that. And you know from last time how to add images. You need to find the image viewer here in the objects and just drag it. Now, because that will be an image that will cover the entire screen, I just need to stretch things out so that my screen is fully covered. And of course the next thing is to go to the attributes inspector and select the image that I need to upload here. So that's the image. So we have a problem, as you can see. The image does not fit the entire screen, so then you need to change the content mode. I have it in aspect fit. That needs to go to aspect fill. Aspect fit means that the iOS puts the image respecting the width versus height ratio. Aspect fill means that it still respects the width versus aspect ratio, but it blows it up so that it can fill the entire screen. Right, so there are other options here like scale to fill. I avoid this. What this option does is it stretches things just to fill out the screen without necessarily respecting the width to height ratio. That means that your image may look a little weird, skewed and so forth. In this case you wouldn't notice much of a difference because it's a monochrome image, but if it were a little bit more interesting image, then you would have noticed this for sure. Now I have at this point my background image. The next thing is of course to load placeholders for uploading the dice. I'm gonna throw 2 dice. That means that I need 2 image viewers, and with that I go to the object library again, and that's my first image viewer. Dice, as you know, are square, so you need to change the dimensions here, say to 128 times 128. Now that looks like a dice shape. And I need two of those. There is a trick. If you click Option and you drag with your mouse, that's a shortcut for copying. So Option, and that's my copy. So now, next thing, now that I have two placeholders for dice faces, I just need to upload actual images. So here, let's say I want dice face 1, and here also dice face 1. So I will start with both dice showing 1. I got my background, I got my dice. Of course, the next thing is something that will allow me to make this dice dance, right? And this something is an action user interface item, and the quintessential action user interface item is the button. So I need to bring a button into the fold. This is too small of a button. I need to make it bigger, like this. And of course I need to let me change the font. I don't like the system font. Of course I need to change the size, make it say 35 so that I can read it, and maybe actually make it bold, so that is a little bit more impressive. Now you see the button blends with the background. I don't want this. And as I said last time, we need themes, so colors need to be consistent. Here we have a color theme that is brown versus white. So if I make my button white, I think that would dovetail very well with the design. There is an easy way to do this actually. If you go to the background here and you pick custom, then you pick this assembler and bring it over to the white space of the dice. That will impart the color to the button. So we are done here. We have our basic user interface items in place. Now the next item in my agenda is to make these GUIs, these graphical user interface items, do something. That means that I need to connect them with code. And the code file is the view controller file. So I need to work vis-a-vis with the code file versus the interface file for a little bit. In order to facilitate my job, I need to go and bring the assistant editor. So this way I have those two files that I will need the next few minutes, one next to the other. That will make my job very, very easy. Now, first of all, I need to make to my code known the left dice. So for that, I hit Control and I drag it. I drag it actually inside the class, but above the override function, and I drop it there. It asks for a name. This is the left dice image. Connect. And the next thing, I need to bring also the right dice image into the fold. So again, Control and I drag it with my mouse just below the left image and I let it go. Name, this is the right dice image. So you see the statements here read interface builder outlet. So basically that's the code outlet to my two interface items. That's how the code now recognizes these graphical user interface items. The next thing is I need to do something with these items now that my code recognizes them. And the way to do it is by making the action item known to my code. The action item is the button. So I do the same thing, control, and I drag this time below the override function. It asks for a name, say we can actually, before I do this, I think it would be appropriate to change the name of the button to something more meaningful. I want this button to throw the dice, so I will call it throw. And now I can make it known to my code. So I take it, I bring it after the override function, but still within the class scope, and I name it throw dice, actually throw pressed button. Connect. Here, instead of a declaration this time, we get actually a function, which is an indication of activity, right? Because that's what the button is going to do. It's going to get something done. Now, what is it going to get done? It's going to throw these dice and they will have the dice landed randomly on a different face, probably. So in order to do this, I need to have basically a way to randomly pick faces among the 6 possible ones. So the way to do this is to, because I have 6 items that are kind of similar, the classic way to organize them in a programming language is to put them in an array. So I need an array of images basically. And because these images will be always those 6 faces, the dice does not change faces. It's constructed once and carries these faces forever, so to speak. Therefore, I need a constant array. So that's why I need to say let dice array image literal. So that will allow me to bring images into the fold. This is a really cool feature actually, and you will see in a moment how it works. Image literal, it allows you to input the actual images into your array. I need 6 of those. If you noticed, I try to take the recommendations that the compiler gives me to avoid making errors, so I just hit return once it comes to the right choice, so to speak. Here you go. We got all 6 elements, and now of course I need to go and say what these elements are. So I pick one image after the other. All right. So by the way, now that I don't need this user interface screen anymore, let me get rid of it so that I can work more comfortably with my code screen. I got an extra comma here which creates these problems. I got rid of it. It complains right now. That's because I have not used my array yet, but I will in a moment, so don't worry about it. So now I need the left dice image to change randomly, right? Which means I need to access this array, the dice array, and pick randomly an index in this array. And I need to do the same thing for the right dice image. Now, a few things here. As you notice, I put space on the left and right side of the equal sign. You need to be careful with symmetrical spacing, otherwise you may get compiler complaints. The way I do the random selection of an index is by bringing up the random property for integer numbers, and of course I put a range from 0 to 5. Why? I have 6 items here, and array counting starts from 0, so that's 0. That means that the 6th item is 5. That's why you see this type of code here. Now, what did I do here? Anytime now I press the button, this function will be called, because this is the function connected with the button. And what will happen, this constant array is defined, and then that means that the left dice image will change the image that is viewed through the viewport. How? By picking up one of the 6 available images in random, and the same thing will happen for the right image. So that's the theory, right? Let's see if it works in practice. Let me compile this and see what we're going to get. That's my splash screen. And here's my game screen. Now if I push this button, this function will be called, and supposedly will change randomly this dice face and that dice face. That's what my code is supposed to do. Let's see if it will do it. It did. and it keeps doing it. So that's a really good code then. So let me quit the simulator and show you one more thing before I wrap this section. One other thing that you can do is basically, let me bring my assistant editor again. Is say do something with the outlets. That means try to change the appearance of these user interface items. That's what you can do with the IB outlets. And the way you do it is through this override function. So, for example, if I want, when the first time the app pops up, so to speak, this initial image from 1 to become 2, then what I can say is this is the right dice image, and dot image, which is what I view through this viewport, needs to become an image literate and I can get rid of the assistant editor now. So in this image literate, I want it to be 2. So I want to change basically my initial configuration before I start throwing the dice to something more interesting. Instead of 1, 1 to 2, 1. So let me see if I achieved this by recompiling the program. So you see the right image now shows 2, and the reason it does this is because I basically intervened in the IB outlet through the override function, and I asked it to change the face, the initial user interface configuration to something different, a little different actually. Of course, the throw button keeps working like it did before. Nothing has changed here. What it did change was the initial configuration was reprogrammed a little bit, so to speak. Anyway, that's it for today, and I hope you enjoyed your second app, and we'll see you next week with one more app down the road. Thank you.